Some years just kind of fade into the background, but others act like a hinge, a single point where everything pivots. For Britain, 1986 was one of those years. It was this chaotic, incredible bridge between an old industrial country and the modern tech-focused nation we recognize today. It was a year of conflict and creativity, all happening at once. So let's dive into what made 1986 so explosive and so important.
I know it sounds like the setup to a really strange joke, right? But believe it or not, the answer ties together this whole wild, transformative year, and by the time we're done here, you'll see exactly how all those pieces fit into the puzzle of 1986. Okay, so to put this all together, we're going to look at 4 key areas. First, the political firestorms that were shaking the government to its core. Then, a massive revolution in the media that totally changed how we get our news. After that, the incredible pop culture that became the soundtrack to it all. And finally, the huge projects that were literally building tomorrow's Britain.
Right, so the year kicks off with an absolute bang, a major political crisis. Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, she seemed completely invincible. But in January 1986, that image really started to crack.
And it all started, of all things, with a helicopter company. The Westland affair wasn't just some boring business deal, it was a flat-out power struggle raging inside Thatcher's own cabinet. The fight was over who should rescue the company, an American firm or a European one. It's a perfect example of how a corporate issue could explode into a full-blown political war at the very top.
And the consequences came thick and fast. First, the defense secretary, Michael Heseltine, dramatically storms out of a cabinet meeting and quits on the spot. Then, just a couple of weeks later, the trade secretary, Leon Britton, is forced out too. Boom. 2 senior ministers gone in less than a month. It was a huge deal, and it showed everyone that even the Iron Lady could be wounded.
But while all this drama was happening in Westminster, the rest of the country was facing a really grim reality. Unemployment hit a staggering 3.2 million people, a post-war high. And it's so important to remember this. The political theatrics weren't happening in a vacuum. They were playing out against this backdrop of genuine economic pain for millions.
And this really shows you the deep divide in the country at the time. On one side, you had the old industrial heartlands, where factories were shutting down and unemployment was soaring. But on the other, you had the city of London getting ready for what they called the Big Bang, this massive deregulation of the financial markets that would turn London into a global money-making machine. It really was a tale of 2 Britons living completely different realities.
Now, this theme of dramatic, often painful change wasn't just in politics. At the exact same time the Westland affair was blowing up, another revolution was kicking off in the world of news, and this one would change the media forever.
So, the media tycoon Rupert Murdoch pulled off this incredibly bold, almost military-style operation. He secretly built a brand new printing plant with all the latest tech. Then, literally overnight, he moved his entire newspaper operation there. With computers, he could bypass the powerful print unions, which basically broke their decades-long grip on Fleet Street. In the process, he sacked thousands of workers who went on strike. It was ruthless.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The Battle of Wapping, as it became known, wasn't just another industrial dispute. It was the definitive end of an era, the end of the old-school ink and metal way of making newspapers.
So why does any of this matter to you now? Well, because the technology and the union-free model that Murdoch forced through are what made the fast-paced 24/7 news cycle possible. The media world we all swim in today, its DNA was formed right here in this bitter fight back in 1986.
Okay, but it wasn't all doom, gloom, and political fights. Seriously, amidst all of that turmoil, British culture was just exploding with creativity. If you turned on your TV or your radio in 1986, you were basically witnessing the birth of legends.
Just look at this lineup. I mean, come on. Rowan Atkinson gave us the absolutely iconic Elizabethan version of Blackadder. We all heard Say What You See for the first time on Catchphrase, and the brilliant political satire of Yes, Prime Minister felt sharper and more relevant than ever. It was an unbelievable year for British TV.
And the music? Just as iconic. The charts were filled with that cool, slick synth-pop sound. You had the moody brilliance of the Pet Shop Boys, the epic choruses of a-ha, and of course, the Smiths dropped what many people still say is one of the greatest British albums of all time. This was the unmistakable sound of 1986.
But this vibrant culture wasn't just happening on the side. It was the neon-colored soundtrack for a country going through these huge, painful changes. In a way, it was both a form of escape from all the tough stuff and also a commentary on it.
So for our final piece of the puzzle, let's look at how 1986 was also about physically building a new Britain. While old industries were dying, these massive new infrastructure projects were literally laying the foundations for the country we live in today. So, in a massive moment of international cooperation, Margaret Thatcher and the French president François Mitterrand signed the treaty to finally build the Channel Tunnel. I mean, this was a project people had dreamed about for centuries, and now it was actually happening, physically connecting Britain to mainland Europe in a way it never had been before.
And back at home, another huge engineering project was finished, the M25 motorway, the giant ring road around London. Yeah, today we all know it as a giant car park, but back then it was this powerful symbol of a modern, connected, mobile Britain that was on the move.
And these two projects, they have this really fascinating dual meaning, don't they? You've got the Channel Tunnel looking outward, connecting Britain to Europe, and then you have the M25 looking inward, tying the nation itself together more tightly. Both were huge statements about the kind of country Britain wanted to be.
So when you put it all together, it becomes crystal clear. 1986 really was the bridge. It was the year of saying painful goodbyes to an industrial past and going through the difficult birth of a new, technological, service-based future. The conflict and the creativity of that one year truly did forge the Britain we live in today.
It does leave you with a final thought, though. The Britain we know today was forged in the fire of these conflicts, between old ways and new, between labor and capital, tradition and technology. So the question is, are we still living out the consequences of the choices made on that bridge back in 1986? Or are we in the middle of building a new one right now?